Welcome to episode 142 of Star Wars and Scotch.
God, you sound like you just had some scotch.
I was up late because I didn't finish my workout till 10, and then I didn't get to start Ahsoka till 10:20, and then I didn't go to bed till 10 to midnight. So,
Ooh.
yeah, it was kind of gross, but it was better than getting up early and watching it, so I'll take that.
Okay.
I'd rather sleep later than...
I watched one episode last night, and then I watched one episode when I got back from the gym.
I knew you were going to do that for some reason, and I don't know why.
It just felt right.
I was like, Tim's going to go to like 10, and then he's going to watch the next one this morning in the interim. So, anyway.
Like we're married.
Essentially. Yeah, and then we married female versions of the other person.
Unbeknownst to each other.
Yeah, that happened. But hey, the only reason I'm awake right now is because of delicious King's Coast coffee.
Nice, that's good.
And I will say this in the realm of space magic. If you're watching TennoCon and you like King's Coast, you might want to pay attention to TennoCon. Why do you look so uncomfortable by that?
It's just a weird segue.
You know what it is.
I know what it is. It's like, hey.
You're not doing sponsored for TennoCon, are you?
No, I'm not a Warframe guy.
Yeah, it was never my bag. I love that team to death. DE are
They're
some
awesome.
of the finest people in this industry. But Warframe was just never my game. I'll let you know about Wayfinder once I can play it, but
It looks like servers are up, so that's cool.
I just haven't had a chance to dive in.
It was fun when we played it at PAX. I had a good time.
I was deterred by a 23,000 person queue on Saturday morning, so I decided to play Baldur's Gate instead.
It's so much fun.
I love Baldur's Gate.
But
yeah, kingscoastcoffee.com. Take my hint how you will, but either way, make sure you're waking up. Also, for the TikTok store update, we are trying every trick in the damn book.
Don't worry, we got a handle on it. It's been quite the adventure.
Yeah, third-party apps we didn't need, Wayne's lack of knowledge in technology.
Oh, we're just gonna okay.
Oh yeah, no, I tell everyone Wayne has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah, Wayne's
No idea.
like a grandma when it comes to tech. Where's the any key?
He's definitely a one-finger typer.
Oh
God. It's okay. He'll never hear this, so he can't do anything about it. So, what? He doesn't listen to my nerdy Star Wars podcast, and I don't listen to his stupid bourbon podcast. We're good. We're good.
Okay. All right, good. I'm glad you guys are good.
It's not stupid. If you like bourbon, go listen to Drink with Wayne. I just don't like what it does to my TikTok algorithm, because then I get a bunch of crusty old white dudes telling me which bourbon I should drink, and that's why I don't watch Wayne's stuff. It's true. Am I wrong?
This is a great time to check out kingscoastcoffee.com. Don't forget, Summer Swell is coming to an end, and Autumn Tide will be coming to your front door soon. So head on over to kingscoastcoffee.com. Check out the Kings Club. It's a great time to get into the Kings Club because you can change your coffee whenever. So you could get Roaster's Choice right now. You could get Autumn Tides in a little bit. We'll have coffee. We'll have our Christmas coffee before you know it. Cocoa's right around the corner. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to kingscoastcoffee.com and let us shake up the way you wake up.
It was weird having a conversation with someone about Kings Coast marketing for next year. And they were like, well, we could film holiday stuff in like February. And I was like,
that sounds sick. We've never done that before.
Imagine planning.
I was really hoping you were going to say Imagine Dragon. But yeah, Imagine planning.
But yeah, kingscoastcoffee.com. GCX is in the rearview mirror, but stay tuned for details of things happening in the future. I have a very exciting meeting tomorrow for GCX, so we just have to dot a few I's, cross a few T's, and then we'll let you know what's going on. I know Tim's community is amped to get back. Every time I go into his YouTube channel, they're all like, when are you announcing the next GCX? Are we doing the just here's my suggestion for where we should do the next GCX.
NASA. We're going to the moon.
Space
Station's back.
Someone said we should do it in the Florida Keys, and I was like, I'm not opposed to that, but
God,
there's
that'd
no
be so
like
expensive,
and there's no space in the Florida Keys for us to do it. So like, I get the sentiment, but we're gonna stay in the resort world for now because
Keys are so much fun. Oh my God.
And
Anyways.
yeah, last thing is Halloween's around the corner, and yeah, you might just want to pay attention to Tim's channels during Halloween because Halloween's around the
Like,
corner.
where are we going with this? I was like, yeah, Halloween is right around the corner.
Just Halloween's around the corner, so start paying attention to Tim's channels. It's darkness, Halloween,
I don't know what you're trying to get at.
darkness,
Whatever,
Halloween.
dude. Let's talk about Ahsoka.
Oh my gosh! So
Oh my god.
did you feel the moment it started? First of all, there was a crawl, not the usual crawl,
Yeah,
but
the
a crawl.
was real. I was very surprised that we got a crawl. It wasn't the traditional Star Wars yellow, like at an angle, like going up, but it was still a crawl nonetheless, which was really, really neat. At the
Is
same
this
time, it
the
kind of worried me because we were like, it worried me in a sense of like, oh my gosh, is this the first episode going to be nothing but trying to get people caught up to where we left off in Rebels? And I was pleasantly surprised because it really didn't. It kind of just like set the tone, and then it was kind of just off to the races. So I was actually really surprised by it, but in a good way.
Even though it makes no sense, this word, but I'm going to say it anyway. Is this the Filoni-verse Star Wars aesthetic
Yes.
with the red crawl? Is that where we're going? Because
Yeah.
think about the Clone Wars logo for the last 4 episodes also changed to red. Is this his thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Because this is technically his Star Wars saga is Clone Wars, Rebels, and now the Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka. That's Filoni's Star Wars
I mean,
saga.
everything about this from start to finish has felt very different from other Star Wars movies.
I would
shows. It's
I would challenge that the beginning of this felt more Star Wars than most of the stuff we've seen in the past few years.
Most definitely.
But also what you just said, it also felt very different at the same time. It was so familiar, yet very different.
It definitely felt like there was a lot of homage to like original Star Wars storytelling in certain ways, camera angles, like even just like the certain aesthetics. Everything felt very, like you said, very familiar. But you can definitely tell like this is the Star Wars movie that Dave has always wanted to make, or this is the Star Wars movie that he felt like George Lucas should have done. And like, because it feels very very Lucas. Like that entire intro was just very like just normal. Like it felt like I was at home. You know, like there was nothing wrong about that intro to Ahsoka that I was just like, I don't like this. It felt really really good.
And then I think the one piece that got me is we went from a text crawl to a pan shot of the ship, the Republic ship. And that was very, very reminiscent of old Star Wars. So that was purposeful. Right out of the gate, meeting Balin and Shin. I guess we can abandon the term Dark Jedi. Would you do that? Because he said, I am no Jedi. You know, you're right about one thing. We're not Jedi.
Yeah, he's not a Jedi, but he's not Sith either.
No, there's something in between.
He definitely. If we fast forward and we go to the end of episode 2, when he is tasked with the ultimate thing of killing Ahsoka, like he even said like it's a shame, you know, there's so few Jedi left, and so it's just like he understands the importance of like having these Force wielders, having these Jedi around, but at the same time, I think he understands that survival is far more important for him and his apprentice than anything else. And so I think it's a really interesting where you have this like neutral party where it's an anti-hero. Like essentially he is an anti-hero. Like I would assume, I don't think he's a villain. I mean, is he a villain? Because I don't think he's like a villain. I don't know if he's a villain. I don't know enough about him to be like, nah, he's a bad guy. I mean, like, did he walk into a New Republic ship and kill everybody? Yeah. But
why?
Why? I mean, like, I don't know. Is he really just a lightsaber for hire? Like, I mean, is he really just an assassin at the end of the day? I don't know. I feel like he's more than that.
When Shin asked him what we're getting out of this when Thrawn returns, which I do want to talk about the Thrawn stuff because
there's so much to talk about.
We'll talk about that later. But when Shin asks him, you know, what are we getting out of him? He basically says power, and that screams Sith to me.
That does.
While they may not be Sith yet, you know, there could be something. And I know someone's going to go, oh, rule of two and Palpatine's still alive. And blah, 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 blah.
Well,
Sith don't actually play by the rules. So if someone wanted to make themselves the master and the apprentice, by the time the other Sith realize, all that happens is two of them are getting killed. And then we do have the true master and apprentice.
Star Wars has been very clear about the classification of Sith versus dark side. There are, like, Kylo Ren is not considered Sith. Kylo Ren is considered a dark side Force user, or he's a warrior of the dark side, but he's not considered Sith. Ventress is not considered Sith. They are all just, they were brought in as an apprentice when the rule of two was still being applied to Palpatine and then his main apprentice. But like all of those tertiary like apprentices, like those didn't count, so they don't get to fall under the Sith classification, which is very interesting. But so knowing that Palpatine is alive, like, I think that does negate Baylan and Shin from being considered Sith. But like you said, like, they're gonna go and grab power. So like, what does that mean? And if you go to Heir to the Empire, like this whole idea of like dark Jedi. Again, I still think they're gonna lean into that a little bit, because like it's such an interesting thing to bring into the universe, and this feels like the right time to like bring in a dark Jedi. No, the whole idea of having a dark Jedi versus having a Sith or having just like this dark side user, because it's just like, is it gonna go into more of like the gray Jedi? Like, is that where this is gonna kind of fall? Where they're not super bad, but they're also not like, they're not good. Like, where do they sit? What's their alignment?
It's the workaround for Palpatine and what Palpatine's up to and all that stuff. So you can still have antagonists, protagonists, evil, light in the middle. You know, you can still play in all of those pawns as long as you, like you said, don't really use the word Sith. It's safe from a lore perspective. But like I also said, it could turn into a showdown depending on what the ultimate motivation is. One takeaway from all of that too is if Ray Stevenson's character does not die at the end of season 1, I'm really going to be sad that we don't get to see him continue the performance, because he's doing a bang up job in my opinion as Baylan Skoll. Like, I was very impressed as to how much I liked him right out of the gate as whatever he's going to be. And I think the whole show is adding an air of mystery that we haven't had to Star Wars on the mystical, like, Force side in quite some time for a number of reasons. So introducing them, and I forget the third person who is apparently used to be an Inquisitor and now works for them. I forget his name.
Oh, is his starts with an
they
M.
mentioned it a few times.
Malot.
It'll come to you.
Yep. Keep going.
I looked in IMDb and it wasn't there. Also, Hu Yang is David Tennant, by the way, the former Doctor Who.
I love Hugh. I love that Hu Yang has become like this sidekick, and he's just there with Ahsoka the whole time. I really like that a lot.
I love that they're arguing about Jedi Order protocol, because she's like, I ain't a Jedi anymore, and he keeps saying like, I was just following standard operating procedure for the Jedi. So it's been fun to watch them. So, you know, we have the whole thing on the ship in the beginning. Cool, sets the tone for who these two are.
Marok.
Marok.
I was like Malak, and I'm like, that's not right. It's
the interesting thing. So there were rumors that Morgan Elsbeth was a Night Sister.
Well.
So that was all proven right. I would also like to say that Tim and I said the planet that Ahsoka was fighting the HK and Marok on was Corellia, and Tim and I were right. So, yay. Going to take that W and put it in my pocket, because we were wrong about everything else. But which I'm okay with. So right out of the gate, you know, we didn't figure out Morgan was a Night Sister until about 20, 30 minutes in. Or was that the second episode? I can't remember. No, it was the first
episode, because we find out where the temple was, like what it was when Ahsoka was grabbing the thing, and Shin asked, what was this place? And she was like, it was a fortress built by my ancestors, the Night Sisters of Dathomir.
She's like witch right out of the gate.
Oh, they're live action now. It's so sick. And I think that's Mother Townsend that's talking to her the whole time when she's hearing whispers.
110 or whatever was talking to Mother Townsend's talking to her. Either one of those two.
Yeah.
So this opens up so much. So first of all, in my knowledge of Disney canon, not the original Night Sisters, I'm clarifying that in Disney canon is that the Night Sisters were not nomadic. They lived on Dathomir, but this proves that they had strongholds elsewhere. This also proves that the Night Sisters had a way of traveling between galaxies. This also introduces the idea that, which was only toyed with in Legends, is that we can get to other galaxies. We're not talking beyond the red line and beyond the outer rim. That's still considered a galaxy far, far away. We're talking galaxies, and the Purgle can travel between these galaxies and create these space worm tunnels.
They're wormholes, yeah.
But they kept saying something significant. They kept saying, she said, Thrawn is calling to me through time and space.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
Because time and space means exactly what we said, which was the veil of the Force. So are the Purgle able to create these tunnels that go through the veil of the... Like, are we bringing that to live action?
No, I don't. I think we're going too deep with that one. But at the same time, I don't understand why Thrawn is communicating with her telepathically, or even how he's capable of doing that.
Well, I don't think you need to go in and do like a whole explanation of what this is, but for the uber nerds, if they just basically say like, oh, it's a wormhole through time and space, we can kind of assume what that means and what that leads to. So one big thing that I'd like to point out is now that we're traveling to another galaxy, we have never understood the power that the Night Sisters possess. We don't know what that is really. It doesn't align with our version of the dark side.
Well, they always said that it was like it came from the dark side, that it was a manipulation of dark side energy that was what gave the Night Sisters their powers.
But does this place that we're apparently going to go to and go beyond the red line for the first time in Star Wars, could this be where that comes? Because obviously the Force will persist throughout the entire, galaxies.
Yeah, it's a universal thing.
But who's to say that in other parts of these other galaxies, the Force is not used differently, manipulated differently, and whatnot, and that the Night Sisters may have originated from this other place and brought that version of the dark side to our Star Wars galaxy?
Here's my biggest problem with all of this so far. Let's go back to the first episode.
Sure.
Let's go to this ancient fortress that was created by Dathomirian Night Sisters.
One thing before you dive in, were you like at first you're like, oh, it's a Jedi temple, and then were you like, this doesn't look like Jedi stuff?
No, I thought it had something to do with the father and the mother, or the father and the sister and the brother. I thought that was going to be something from what's the planet? I'm brain farting.
Mortis.
I thought that was going to be like a Mortis temple of some sort. That was the kind of the vibe that I was getting.
Yeah.
But they even like that you could even tell like the figures that were like on the walls and stuff. They looked very alien. Like the black big eyes, the very elongated bodies. Like they looked like a very old alien race that we've never seen before. Mm-hmm. So that was my first question of like what is this place and how significant is it going to be to the rest of the story? The biggest part that I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around is why was there this old ancient temple that had this very Indiana Jones ancient puzzle to open up this obelisk style thing that looks like it's been sitting there for thousands of years, that had a star map inside of it that only if like you essentially needed magic or the ability to decipher puzzles to get a key to open up, that shows you where Thrawn is. What is so? I'm sure I would hope to God that the writing is, it's not that it's the location of Thrawn, it's the location of where Thrawn ended up because of the Purgles. I think that's the one part that I feel like is just the way that the writing happened in the first one, it made it seem like that this ancient thing is telling us where Thrawn is. And so it's not telling us where Thrawn is, it's telling us where Thrawn ended up, or where they assume Thrawn ended up because of this like old magic.
So
right?
my feeling on that is if you look at the star map when she puts it on the pedestal,
there's big Purgles and stuff that are like
right. So if you look at the lore with Purgles, people have been studying Purgles since before hyperspace travel, because they actually created hyperspace travel based on what they were able to see.
right.
The
They have like their
Purgles do
own
and try to
paths
mimic
and
it.
stuff.
Right. So what I think is happening is perhaps studying like the Purgle migration, if you will, through space, that maybe Morgan has identified that this is where that the Purgles would have brought Thrawn's ship.
But still,
Yes, there's definitely gray areas. I'm just trying to say from what I pieced together in the episode, this would be the explanation.
there just seems like there's a lot of gaps.
I agree.
And that was my biggest frustration, is that we put so much focus around this object that's leading us to Thrawn. It's a lot, like it kept on reminding me of episode 7, where they kept on looking for the piece of a star map that leads to Luke Skywalker. And it's just like, you have an entire galaxy completely like mapped out, and you're missing this one little piece, but we're going to spend an entire movie trying to find this one little piece to fill in a gap. So it's just kind of weird.
It also reminded me of, and this I found stupid, was that stupid knife in 9.
Yeah.
Of like, this is an ancient knife, but it aligns perfectly with this crash that only happened like 20 years ago. That's what kind of reminded me. This seemed a bit more palatable though, because of what the Purgles being involved, and they're ancient and whatnot. So I think there's more meat on that bone, but you're right that they did not, to the new viewer especially, that has no clue what a Purgle is.
Yeah.
They didn't do the best job of really sorting that out and putting that in front of the viewer. But there's still time, obviously, to rectify that.
Sure, most definitely. I was really kind of just like, I kept on going like, but why the star map? Like, how is the star map and Thrawn, like, why are they so connected? But the way that Ahsoka finds the star map again was very like ancient Indiana Jones, like temple crawling kind of like scenario, and then like this event that only happened 5 years or like 6 years ago, or however, like 5 years ago ish, right? Something like, it was like right around. No, it's actually longer than that. So it was before episode 5. So it would have been like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while, because
it's been a bit. So that's
say that Thrawn missed the whole Civil War.
Yeah, he missed everything because he left before the Death Star was completed.
Because the Emperor believed he was the difference between winning and losing.
Right.
And obviously, with him gone, they lost.
Well,
and if Thrawn would have stayed,
if you really start getting into it, there was a whole thing where like the Emperor, if you read Heir to the Empire, the Emperor was casting this like buff. If you want to take it like D&D style, he was casting this galactic buff that gave all of his admirals and commanders this like heightened sense of intelligence and tactical understandings. And so when the Emperor died, everyone lost their ability to like command, because he was no longer casting out this heightened level of like sixth sense of being able to just like read a battle. It's really weird. It was really, really strange, like how Heir to the Empire explains like what was going on versus like how it is like in Disney canon. But yeah, I think you're right about Purgles. I think this is definitely going to tie in very hard to Purgles. We saw Purgles in the trailer. We saw a Purgle flying over the planet when Balin was kind of like looking at the stone relics, and he looks up and you kind of see that shadow of a Purgle flying over. I really hope that it isn't just that. I really hope there's more to it, because like it felt so mysterious when Ezra makes this sacrifice and flies off through space with these Purgles, and like that was it. That was done. But the mystery to the Purgles and the exact location was always on the star map. So like that's the biggest thing for me, and where I keep on coming back to is why are we putting so much importance on that? So hopefully it changes. Hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah, no, I think you have a very, very good point there, and it could be fleshed out, because it could have they're essentially making decisions that are going to have profound effects on Star Wars lore moving forward. Like this is not little things that are changing.
I'm nervous about it.
And again, this is what happens. This is the difference between a show with Force users and a show like Mandalorian, where it's a story within the universe, and we're just like along for the ride. Now, lasting implications, yes, they reestablish the civilization of Mandalorians in the show. There's definitely points in the show that are very, very important to the grand scheme. But this is nuts what they're aiming to do. But again, this is Filoni. This is the guy George Lucas trusted with the franchise.
Yeah.
So before all the fanboys take to our TikTok and our Instagram and start, going nuts and whatnot, remember, this is the one that George Lucas entrusted the franchise and the future of it to. It is not Kathleen Kennedy. It was Dave Filoni. So Dave Filoni is picking up the story and running with it. Dave Filoni was George Lucas was part of the creation of Ahsoka. This is not like just Dave Filoni's creation. George had to say. Yeah. So, and would you the relationship they have, Tim? Don't you think that he's like probably calling him occasionally, being like,
I would assume so.
George, what do you remember the whales with the octopus tentacles? We're gonna go live action on them. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
And George is just sitting there with his $100 bills, crying his tears that he doesn't own the franchise anymore.
I love that. He's reading the articles. They're like, George Lucas is upset about Star Wars. I'm like, okay, but he made like lots of money. He was going to retire anyway. So
yeah, he's been compensated for being upset.
Yep.
So yeah, it's on that side of the fence. We'll see. There's a lot of I know this starts to get into the mysticism that you and I are super interested in, and we've taken a very long break from that, in my opinion.
Oh, very much so.
Current content, we focused a lot on non-Force users and whatnot, so I'm happy to be there. One thought before we talk about some of the other folks and some of the other stuff too. We talked last week about the Old Republic and why they haven't taken it out, and I'm starting to believe that they are actually laying the groundwork in front of us and we're not paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were so many little Star Wars The Old Republic nods in this. And then with Acolyte coming and knowing that almost mimics the kind of story that Revan and Malik, Jedis, very disenfranchised. They go off and fight, on the other side in the Jedi Civil War, or they fight the Jedi Civil War with all of that, whatever, not Jedi Civil War, the Jedi Mandalorian Wars. And then they are not happy, and then they start going around the galaxy looking for bad stuff. The introduction of a live-action star map, that is exactly what you do in KOTOR. Those are the maps that you use to navigate the galaxy. Mm-hmm. So while it has nothing to do with Old Republic, the only thing it does is legitimize the fact that star maps are a thing, and this is how they work, just like you used them in the game, which was exciting. And then the secondary thing, Tim brought it up right in pre, and I picked up on it immediately. Her hyperspace loop to get to this galaxy has to be fitted with something called the Eye of Sion.
Well, no, they're creating the Eye of Sion.
Oh, they're creating the Eye of Sion.
They're creating the Eye of Sion with these super Star Destroyer warp cores.
Jump to the next galaxy.
Correct. So they're making like a wormhole. They're making like a Stargate, essentially. Like that is a Stargate. And it's called the Eye of Sion. And I would assume this has to do with Darth Sion.
Who only has one eye.
So I thought that was really, really cool. And then and Darth Sion ties into Revan and Malik. Because Sion, here's the excerpt from Wikipedia. Sion allied himself with the next Sith Empire because originally, real quick, let me roll back. Sion originally was with Exar Kun.
Yes.
And so after the fall of Exar Kun, he then aligns himself with Revan and Malik. And then it says, those Sith too fell, and he watched from the Sith Academy on Korriban as the Empire tore itself apart. Sion soon found new purpose with Darth Traya and Darth Nihilus, a pair of Sith Lords who together with Sion formed the Sith Triumvirate. Is that right? Triumvirate? Dedicated to restoring the Sith and eliminating the Jedi. In their headquarters on Malachor 5, Sion served as Treya's disciple. Eventually frustrated with her teachings, he and Nihilus stripped her of the Force and cast her out. The two ruling Sith Lords went on to reunite most of the surviving Sith remnants and continued their war on the Jedi with great success. That's sick. So, and I agree with you.
A little more background.
Go ahead.
Because you're an edgelord and you love this stuff. Do you know what his whole thing is? and his connection to the Force.
He is the Lord of Pain.
His hatred and his essentially dark side essence, I don't know how to phrase it exactly, is all that's keeping him together. Because he's been so wounded and
that's why he's
scarred.
falling apart and stuff.
Yeah, so that's what's actually keeping him together, and God knows what happened to the other eye. Maybe it has something to do with this intergalactic travel. Who knows?
I mean, but it ties in perfectly with Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, so they keep and then obviously we brought back HK droids. HK droids originated in Knights of the Old Republic. These are new models. These are not 47s. These are whatever the new models are. Which man,
Corellians though, I knew it.
Oh, come on. What's interesting is in the Old Republic, Corellia is actually under Republic control. So it wasn't until it became the Empire in our era. So even back in the day when it was an Empire and a Republic, it was still under Republic control. So it's interesting to see that they would be Empire sympathizers.
Well, remember what we saw in Solo, though. Like, we got to see the Imperial-controlled Corellia. And so, like, you can see how deep the Empire was on Corellia in Solo. And so, like, that, when Hera was like, was it Hera that asked, you know, wouldn't you be worried about Imperial sympathizers? Like, of course you would be. Like, we saw that on freaking in Coruscant with Andor. You know, like,
especially
all of these,
a blue collar planet. They probably had it made during the Empire's reign. You know, follow the rules, get your paycheck, everything's good. You know, bars, gambling, your normal
Mandalore.
Your normal blue collar situation, you know, and then these rebels come in, they wreck everything. You're probably making less money now, you know, things like that. And they're probably in that vein sympathizers of the Empire. So I'm sure it's. I mean, you knew immediately when he didn't want to give them the tour that something ain't right here.
Yeah,
something's wrong.
Everything was wrong.
I love that the droid's the one that gave them up though. Like, yes, I saw
of
an
course
HK
it was
droid.
of course it was the protocol droid. It was very C-3PO. I love that. It was really good. Very, very good.
Yeah, so that was fun. The more I watched Hera, the more I was fine with, you know.
It was a little off at first. I wasn't
they
sure
got
how
into
I
the
felt
groove.
about her, but I did. She did pop in, but like the initial like, oh, that's Hera, and I was just like, because I had I've just watched Rebels this weekend. I watched the critical like Ahsoka episodes, and so that was very, very fresh in my mind. So I had to switch over from animated to live action. And then I think once I got over that hump, I was like, okay, like she's doing a good job. Like she popped in. Chopper in episode 2, amazing. He was so good. It was just perfect. Like it really felt like the gang was back together. I mean, everyone's right. I mean, like this is literally just Rebels live action. Like this is just the continuation of Rebels. I'm really glad that they explained the whole Sabine Padawan to Ahsoka. There was a lot of people that were really nervous about this, like Sabine's going to be Force sensitive. She's going to be a Jedi, and it's not. It's the complete inverse of that. Like she, I think Ahsoka understood that she needed somebody to watch her back. She needed a buddy, and Sabine was that person who, you know, she was very accepting of those trials of like, you know, the challenge of like the Darksaber, like wielding the Darksaber. Like she was able to do that. So I feel like Ahsoka kind of recognized that she had some innate like Force user like attributes, but they're very, very small, if any at all. She's a great warrior. I think at the end of the day, it just like because of her Mandalorian upbringing, it makes sense to have her as Ahsoka's like battle buddy.
Is there some sort of connection here, knowing that Dave Filoni's going to cap this all off with a movie? Is there some connection here to Grogu being a Mandalorian Force user and now her being a Mandalorian Force user?
But she's not a Force user. Even Hoi Yang says that. He even says that like your abilities of what did she say? Force. He says that your abilities compared to like. God, what did he say? I literally just listened to it. Anyways, compressed version. He essentially recognizes that her ability to use the Force is so minuscule that she isn't even compared to some of the youngest younglings. Or smaller, like the youngest Padawans is what is essentially it. That's how I interpreted it. Of like that was the final of like, okay, she's not a Jedi. She's just she's learning from Ahsoka, but she's like that also makes sense when she's fighting Shen in the woods and she does like in the trailer and she puts her hand out and nothing happens and she goes, "You have no power." I think that's also going to be a moment for Sabine for her to realize like, yeah, I don't have the abilities that Ezra has. I'm not that kind of person, but I can still fight. And like that's why she made the lightsaber of her own, because I think she realized that like when she had the dark saber, like she was like that made her whole. Yeah. And so I think that's why she has her own lightsaber, because it's cool to see a Mandalorian with the lightsaber. Like we saw it with Din, we've seen it with Sabine before. And so for her to have like Ezra's lightsaber and making it her own, I think that's really cool. But I also really like that she's not a Jedi. Like she's not a Force user.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting journey with the two of them now. I was happy to see her put her Mandalorian gear back on.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, she's perfect. Who they casted, Lou, I think her name is. But she's perfect for Sabine. Like I couldn't see anyone else playing a live action Sabine. She's got the attitude down, the look, everything. Also, it was funny to see Clancy Brown. It's like, man, this is like your seventh Star Wars role.
You understand why Clancy Brown was there, right?
Yeah, because he's in Rebels. He plays multiple people.
He voiced, that was his character.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
And they modeled him. They modeled the character after Clancy Brown in Rebels. So for him to just like show up on stage, it was perfect. Everything about that was beautiful.
He plays them. He's voiced a ton of characters in Clone Wars and
he was in Mandalorian.
Rebels. He was the Devaronian.
He played the Devaronian in the Escape episode in season 1.
Yeah, so at this point, it's just
2, whichever one that was.
How many roles can Clancy Brown play in Star Wars?
And he does them so well. So he could just do all of them for all I care. I love having him a part of Star Wars.
No, he's awesome. Fantastic. So that was fun to see. It was fun to see Lothal live action too. That was pretty cool.
Lothal has gotten an upgrade.
Well, yeah,
it has definitely become this hub of trade, and it is prospering. And like, look what happens when the Empire's not just trying to strip mine the planet. They're doing very well. I was really surprised of how utopian Lothal looked compared to when the last time that we see it in Rebels. Because in Rebels, it's like Shantytown. It's nothing. It's impressive.
A base essentially.
It's a base of operation for the Imperial mining that's happening on Lothal, because Lothal was a mining planet. That's where if you read the oh man, is it Catalyst? There's one of the it's the early Thrawn books. It's book 1. It talks about the one person that was with Thrawn who is from Lothal. I forget her name. She's an Imperial officer. It talks about her background and her family and how they owned a mining company and all of these things that were based off on Lothal. So it's really cool to see just like this stark difference of Lothal now versus how it was like 20 years ago.
Oh my God, what was her name? I see her face in my head.
I can see her
the
face
short
too.
Black hair.
Yeah, yeah, and she's got this annoying voice.
She was the mayor, wasn't she? Or the governor of Lothal?
The governor, yeah.
Yeah, because she was under Tarkin.
Right.
Hey, let's take a quick break, pay a few bills, be right back. We're back. Governor Price.
It was Governor Price. Governor Price.
I don't know why it just came to me, but I think it was because you said Thrawn, and then I heard Thrawn saying her name in my head.
You're welcome.
And you're right. He blamed her for literally everything.
Everything.
But in his defense,
she was an idiot.
She was an idiot. Like, she didn't.
Then she got blown up, which I was okay with.
Thrawn seemed okay with it too. So, speaking of, give it to me, because I don't really have an opinion right now, but I know you have them on him. So give it to me. Also, the ship, by the way, you see him in is Morgan's ship.
Yeah, it's the Eye of Sion.
Yeah.
When he walks on. So like, yeah, there's. Okay, so wait, what do you want me to give you?
Your impressions of what's happening with Thrawn right now, because you're very concerned with how this is going to be handled.
So I still don't understand this whole connection between Thrawn and Morgan. and why Morgan as a Night Sister is so caught up with him. Like, this relationship makes no sense because we went from Morgan being an Imperial like overlord and a manufacturer of weapons of mass destruction to then being a Night Sister to then having some type of like force connection with Thrawn, which I don't understand. That's one part that I really don't get. The other part that I'm completely thrown off by is, why did Timothy Zahn write this entire backstory for him? And then it feels like it got chucked out the window. Are we gonna have any mention of Grisk at all in this? I don't think so. I think the entire Grisk storyline is gonna get completely thrown by the wayside with this.
It's gonna get Zephoed.
Yeah, I think it's gonna get Zephoed hard, unfortunately, and it's gonna come up like in another book or a comic or something, which is a bit frustrating. I don't understand where we're going. This is where I'm at right now. I don't know where we're going with this story.
I have no idea. People are doing, there's a little bit of speculation on, the one race that allegedly in Legends, we found out later that they didn't, but they technically kind of did, that comes from another galaxy. There's only one race, the Yuzong Bong. But I don't think they fit Disney's version of Star Wars, so I don't think we will ever see them outside of maybe a book or a comic. And like you said, for all we know, the Grisk are the Yuzong Vong, just under a different name because they had to be a little bit toned down for Disney. So who the hell knows what's happening? This could also mean nothing, and we could just be going to some deserted world. But how did they survive for 15 years?
Right.
So
we have to go back. We have to go back to Rebels, and I'm trying to backtrack here. And everything about Thrawn is like in Rebels is that he was just a really he was a tactician, very smart. He was always like one step ahead, or always meeting the rebels and kind of like throwing their plans off. But they never like got into the Chiss backstory. And I think that's why I really enjoyed, because Thrawn's a really fun bad guy in Rebels. He's a really cool bad guy in Star Wars in general. But if you go and you read these books, you start to understand that there's more to Thrawn than what is showcased in the show. And so I have a lot of appreciation for what Timothy Zahn has done with this new version of Thrawn. Going back and listening to Heir to the Empire, very, very different character. Mm-hmm. The stuff that we have now paints him in a completely different picture, and his overall, like the Emperor at the end of Book 3 for the first trilogy of Thrawn, not the prequel, but the original trilogy, or the new trilogy for Thrawn, it ends with the Emperor doubting everything that Thrawn is. He knows that he's gonna get backstabbed by Thrawn, and he's trying to get it out of him. But Thrawn has always kind of eluded the Emperor, so he sends him off to the Outer Rim to go take care of the rebels that are out on Lothal. That is where we end up, and then we pick it back up in Rebels, and then
Book 3 drops you off at the beginning of Rebels.
Book 3 drops you off of the introduction to Thrawn in Rebels.
Got it.
The Emperor says, there's the rebels on Lothal. Go deal with them. And he's like, yes, my Emperor. And off he goes, right? So now we go into Rebels. We kind of fast forward a bit when Ezra, we find out that Ezra is essentially like a Beastmaster. He's able to talk with animals, commune with them. We see it in multiple episodes where like Ezra saves the group by talking to an animal of some sort, whether it's like the flying mantis or it's, the Purgle. And so that is another part of this puzzle that I'm trying to figure out is, did the Purgles tell Ezra about this place? And did he see it through the Force of like, this is a place where I can take Thrawn and there is no way in hell that he could affect the outcome of the rebels and their uprising against the Empire? Was there so much foresight from them that was the only, like Doctor Strange, right? Like, did Ezra Doctor Strange and see all of these possibilities and realize that the only way to save his friends from Thrawn was to take him to another galaxy.
Or was it an oh shit button and it was more like...
That's what I thought it was. I thought all of that was just like, I got to get him out of here. Right.
Yeah,
and so like
even telling the Purgle though, like he's dangerous. We need to get rid of him. Please help me.
Right. Exactly.
And then their Purgle are like, cool, we'll take him over here where he'll never be able to return.
I always assumed that they were still in the galaxy. The galaxy is massive. I just always assumed that the hunt for Ezra and for Thrawn would stay in the galaxy. But knowing that they're outside in another galaxy opens up a whole nother can of worms, which I'm still trying to really wrap my head around. And so, again, to kind of like close up this tangent, I don't know, again, and I feel like I've been saying this for weeks now, I don't know where Filoni is going with the Thrawn character, and what was the point of Timothy Zahn writing 6 books to set up Thrawn for what I assumed would be his screen reveal, his on-screen presence. Even if you didn't read all the books, I feel like they could have presented Thrawn as not this overarching just like bad guy who's going to take over the Empire. I'm still totally down, and there's still a lot of show left. I'm not condemning this character. I'm not condemning Filoni's writing because we haven't even had a chance to meet them yet. But for the stage that they are setting, I don't know where they're going to go with this character. I don't understand why Morgan, again, has this like connection with him. Why was she tasked with finding him? There is a lot of, hopefully we could either get flashbacks or there is some type of dialogue that sets this up, because I definitely have found myself scratching my head of like, I don't know where we're going with this. And I think that's okay. I think it's all right to be like, I don't know where this is going to go, and I'm just along for the ride, because I feel like by the time, and this happened in Mandalorian as well, Kevin, where we were like, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. And by the end of it, by the time we got to the end of it, you're like, oh my God, what a beautiful picture. Like it all makes sense now. And so I think that's kind of like what's going to happen is by the time we get to the end of Ahsoka, it'll all make sense. But it's definitely, as someone who has read the books, watched the movies, watched the shows, I don't know where we're going with this. And it doesn't make any sense to me.
For the first time, I got to tell you, I don't have many theories. The fact that we're leaving the galaxy, to me, breaks everything we've ever known about Star Wars. And again, that yes, they've touched on it in Legends, but we've never really gone for it, even in Legends. So this is new, uncharted ground, and we knew we had to get here at some point with Star Wars. But it's very different than what we all thought how this was going to play out. Like Tim said, we thought they were in the galaxy; they were just out beyond the outer rim, like somewhere out there, but another galaxy. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
In my head, I thought they were going to be in the Ascendancy. I really, really thought that with all of that time that had transpired, that he would have ended up in the galaxy, or he ended up in the Chiss Ascendancy. But like this whole thing of being like outcasted, like that's the other word that they used multiple times that threw me for a loop. Outcast.
And exile.
And in exile. Like he wasn't exiled, he got yeeted through space.
Exiled by the Purgle, maybe? I don't know.
Exile is something like, okay, he was exiled from the Ascendancy.
But that was a ploy, you said.
But it was planted by the myth.
Yeah, it was a ploy.
The myth family planted him as an exile to make the other houses think that he was in trouble, when in fact it was a plan between him, the higher ups in the myth family, and Admiral Ar'alani. They all knew. They planted Thrawn on that Imperial controlled planet to get him into the Empire, because they knew that this was bad. This whole idea of this galactic civil war that was happening because Thrawn met Anakin, which is another thing that I hope they touch on, because Thrawn meets Anakin. Thrawn was with Vader. He got exiled by the myths to get planted into and go up the ranks. He did everything that he was supposed to do for the myth family. Are they going to throw that out the window? But they keep on saying exile, so I don't know what it means. I got pulled in so many different directions with how they're going to treat Thrawn in episode 2. I don't know where we're going with this.
How did you feel about Sabine surviving being run through with a lightsaber?
Qui-Gon Jinned. I literally said that when I'm watching. It's like, oh, she got Qui-Gon, but she's okay. I think it's because Kevin, I'm shitting you not. I think it's because it hit her here. It hit her on left side kidney. All right, where Qui-Gon got middle spine. I don't know. Like, apparently you can just put a Bacta badge on you and you're fine.
Boom.
Why did Qui-Gon die by getting run through by Darth Maul, but Sabine doesn't? I'm so confused. I think her getting stabbed was just like the perfect oh shit moment to get Shin away and make it so that she wasn't going to fight Ahsoka. But I still don't understand how she was okay, but Qui-Gon Jinn dies.
I don't know.
I don't know. I was really bothered by that. I was honest to God bothered by the fact that she got stabbed and she got a bandage, a Bacta liquid bandage put on her, which is really cool, by the way. It was really neat to see like this whole thing that had like liquid, like the liquid tubing on it to run the Bacta like into the place where you needed to go. Very neat. I really liked that. But it was still, she got run through by a lightsaber and she was okay. It only took her a couple days to recover. Just a couple. Qui-Gon Jinn died.
You're not wrong.
I don't know. I'm glad you picked up on that because it really bothered me.
Yeah, I was like, oh, she got run through. But then in my head, I'm like, she's alive because she cuts her hair in the trailer. So it's not like we're killing Sabine right now. I thought we were going to get like some flashback or something because I was like, well, Sabine's gone. No, she's fine. I knew she was going to survive because she's too integral to the story.
I don't know.
What's interesting, too, is at the end of episode 2, when Sabine's looking at the mural, that's literally reminiscent of the final scene of Rebels where she's looking at the mural and then Ahsoka standing behind her, and it's the Battle of Lothal is over.
That's exact. It is the end.
Or is that the end of the Empire? I think it's the end of the Empire.
It's the end of Rebels when they fast forward like 6 years. The Empire's fallen. Everyone's celebrating. Lothal looks like clean and pretty. It's essentially the stepping off point from the end of Rebels. It took us 2 episodes to get to a point where Sabine and Ahsoka leave on the final episode of Rebels
to go find
Ezra and Thrawn.
It's literally a recreation of that scene.
It's a rehash of the end of Rebels.
Got it. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was like a nod or the actual scene.
Now here's the other thing. You could in theory say that where Rebels ends and where Ahsoka episode 2 ends is the same junction point. I don't think it's true, but I mean it's so similar. It's almost frame for frame.
Yeah.
Now I want to go back and watch it again, but in theory, the time wise, that means they've done this twice then, where they've met up on that platform, they've gotten on a ship together, and they've taken off, which is kind of weird.
What do you think of Morgan's ship? Is that like a Night Sister situation?
Very, very alien, very not Star Wars.
Even the holograms were different. They were green. They were had this.
They used like sand almost. They had this like particle effect to them. Whereas it was very not of the Star Wars galaxy.
The droids. I have a screenshot here. The droids do not look like anything I've ever seen before.
Maybe she's done this before.
Yeah,
but it's not like those are like that ship's not from Corellia. All of the the interfaces that they're working with, the holo projectors are different. Like everything about her transport ship when she goes down to meet with Balin, whatever that planet was, with like the red trees. That was very cool, by the way.
Starts with an S. I can't remember what the name of it is, but yeah.
When you see that, the transport ship, and then also you see the Eye of Sion, they're all very... I mean, if anything, Kevin, it's kind of like Old Republic vibe.
What if it's the Gaze Electric?
No, it's not the Gaze Electric. No, because the Gaze Electric has a glass bottom, and it's a massive ship.
Who But it's completely run by
I don't-
droids when we leave off with Markion.
Yeah, but I mean, like, she's using droids for all of the stuff that they've done so far has all been HK droids. So I would assume, much like Markion Ro, Markion understood that robots were the best thing for him because they would never betray him. And so I would assume, and also Thrawn recognizes that as well. He understands that like robots are far more superior to getting just your shit done than other people.
Were his personal guard droids?
He had, I mean, like some of the HK droids that you see in The Mandalorian when we meet Morgan for the first time, they have the Chimera like sigil like on their pauldrons. And yeah, he uses droids throughout the books. He repurposes a vulture droid at one point. He repurposes the little scrapper droids. The ones that like cut through ships and stuff. So he uses them a lot to get shit done. So that doesn't surprise me at all. The thing is, again, is the architecture, the technology is very, very different. So I would assume this is from another galaxy. This idea of being able to travel throughout the universe and visit other galaxies is going to become I think they're setting this up to be a normal thing within the Star Wars universe as we go forward.
So,
which is weird because we still haven't even established all of the stuff that's outside in uncharted space within their own galaxy. There is still an entire section of Star Wars that has been talked about in literature that has never been that has really ever been showcased visually, and we're just kind of jumping over that. Like I don't understand why we can't. Why we didn't use this as a great time to introduce the Ascendancy and to introduce the Grisk and all of this stuff. Like, why are we leaving the galaxy far, far away and going to another galaxy that's even farther away? A long time ago in a galaxy that's really freaking far away. Like
a long time ago in a galaxy that's even further than this
you know,
one.
right? I mean, just like I don't understand like where we're going with this. It's just I feel like there was so much stuff that was set up for us that was just laid out perfectly in a beautiful way, and we're just like, nah. I don't know. I really don't know how to feel about it. And that's why I'm struggling with really enjoying the show right now. Because I like it. I enjoy it. It's like visually, cinematography wise. If we just look at the cinematography, fantastic. It is a full blown movie. Like this is a Star Wars movie that has been chopped up into how many episodes? What, 6 episodes? 6 parts? 8 parts? And it's visually stunning. They spared no expense. Especially in episode 1, breathtaking. Episode 2, that entire Corellia section, chef kiss. It was amazing. It was really, really good. But where are we going with it? I'm lost from the storytelling aspect. I think visually it was great. The choreography for the fights were fun. Ahsoka fighting the HK droids in part 1, awesome. Like them exploding and glassing like 5 miles. That was cool. That was really neat. But there was a lot of back and forth in the first 2 episodes to kind of get us to this point. That felt like we could have. I saw IGN's review of it yesterday, and I started reading through it, and I was like, oh no, that's not good. And unfortunately, I have to agree with IGN. And there are parts of the story that just fall flat, or it feels like they could have used more time to expand on what we're going to do versus how we got to where we are right now. And I understand that there are going to be a lot of people that are watching Ahsoka that haven't watched Rebels, or they don't understand the importance of Ahsoka within the Star Wars universe and how she connects to so many different people. But we spent a lot of time. We spent a lot of time in these 2 episodes to try to get us to a feel good point where we have these connections with the characters to a certain degree.
I don't think Ahsoka is for your older Star Wars fan, casual fan. I think Ahsoka is for your super fan and for the kids who grew up watching Rebels that are teenagers and in their 20s now.
I think you could still introduce Ahsoka in a way where old
Sure.
Star Wars fans that have no idea what's going on and they just like Star Wars because they watched it growing up and they watched the original trilogy, I think they could still get on board with like this Togruta Jedi that is out there to kick ass. And I think you could still do it in a way where you don't have to spend 2 episodes to try to build up a backstory to it. I think we could have like the first part of the episode 1, that entire introduction of like Ahsoka and Hera and like all those things, like that was all really good. And then I felt like we just kept on doing more and more of that, where I was like, personally for me, I was ready to go on. Like I was ready to get further along in the story than where we ended up in almost 2 hours. So I don't know how you feel about that.
Thinking.
Oh, I was like, I lost Kevin. Good.
No,
They
no,
can
I'm
just- they
thinking.
can-
I'm
they can
thinking.
Cut that part out.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
I'm
don't know.
very torn.
I like other Star Wars shows. Before everyone gets all upset, I want to say that I'm not sure yet, and ask me in 6 weeks is kind of where my head is at.
Yeah.
But I'm lost. I don't have a prediction. For the first time in any Star Wars show, I do not have a prediction. Like, I love my insane theories. I don't got one.
And
I have
maybe
no
that's
idea
why
where
I'm
this is
having
going.
such a hard time with this right now, is because I have no idea where this is going.
I have no idea where this is going. This is uncharted territory for Star Wars. It is not playing by the book. I'm kind of happy that we're breaking that, but it has to be done correctly. And I am worried, based on what you've told me about Thrawn, because for full clarity, if you're new to Star Wars and Scotch, I've only read 2 out of the 6 Thrawn books. So Tim has kind of filled me in on the important points that I need to know, because I don't really care about the spoilers. I'm more concerned with the continuity of the story. So I am, based on what Tim has said, I am a bit worried on the treatment of Thrawn and the motivations of Thrawn in live action versus the motivations of Thrawn in the Timothy Zahn canon novels, because he did write Heir to the Empire as well. And I know you don't like Heir to the Empire, Thrawn. So,
Because the Heir to the Empire Thrawn is purely driven to reclaim the Empire. Like, and to rebuild the Empire and bring it back to its glory, which makes no sense in the newer Timothy Zahn Ascendancy books.
yeah.
And even in the trilogy, as he's working his way up through the Imperial Navy, and he's becoming an admiral and all of this stuff, it always came back to the Ascendancy. It always came back to the Myth House. And I still don't understand how that all works with Thrawn now.
Well, I don't have anything for you. I really don't. I wish I did. I'm kind of on in a good way. I'm on the edge of my seat and along for the ride. And then there is that piece of me that's sitting there going like, what are we doing with Ron here? Because
but maybe, okay, so here's the other thing is Thrawn being used for us as a distraction? And
Thrawn is
we
like
are missing.
Palpatine.
Are we missing the completely other side of the story? Because Balin, his character, I think is going to be important. I think Balin and Shin are far more important than I think what we realize right now. Balin is very strong in the Force, extremely strong in the Force. We know that he disappears at the end of the Clone Wars. Hu Yang says that because he recognizes the lightsaber. He knows who owns it. And the last of the records show that he disappears at the end of the Clone Wars. So does he go? He goes into he survives Order 66. He goes into hiding, but he is very, very strong. He can read the Force. Like Morgan Elspeth asks him, "What is she feeling? What is what's going to happen?" He's able to see the future and all this stuff. Like he's as powerful as, I would say, like Yoda or Qui-Gon or Anakin. Like I would throw him up there in that hierarchy of Jedi.
So, and it's interesting that he has an apprentice, obviously.
Did you notice her little Padawan braid?
Yes.
I thought that was really good.
And then he also has an Inquisitor who would have been hunting him down 10 years ago.
Yes, but so do you recognize that Balin is keeping to the Jedi way to a certain degree? To a certain degree, he's holding his like his old practices now, which is weird.
in turn brings the words dark Jedi back into the conversation.
It does, right? He's like he's chaotic neutral or chaotic good.
Yeah, because there seems to be a motivation and a reasoning, and that reasoning has probably been justified, but we don't fully understand what that is yet.
I think what we're going to end up seeing is we're going to see a continuation of the narrative that the Jedi Order in the prequel trilogy were pious, and they were so full of themselves that they completely missed all of their teachings and everything that was true of being a Jedi. The idea of attachment, the idea of love, like all these things. We're talking about it in the High Republic constantly. In Phase 1, they constantly talk about how the Jedi are recognizing that, without love and compassion, like it is contradictory to everything else. Like you can't be passionate about being a Jedi without loving. You can't hold true to the ways without doing this thing that contradicts the thing that we're being told not to do. And so it's very, very interesting to see. And I think Balin's going to bring that to the screen. I think he's really going to show, and I think Ahsoka is going to end up agreeing with him because she ran into the same issue as well. She recognizes that they were completely they really were so full of themselves that they missed what it was to be a keeper of the peace.
Mm-hmm.
And it even and at some point we even talk about how Yoda was so even Yoda was I know what it was. It's when Yoda is talking to he's talking to Ezra in the Veil of the Force. It's when they go to the temple on Lothal, and Yoda admits to Ezra that he was afraid and that he was so caught up in his fear of losing everything and his fear of the dark side that it completely clouded his mind. And that was one of the reasons why he went into exile on Dagobah, is because he felt like he let everyone down. And and that's very interesting that they even brought that up in the animated show as well. So I think we're going to see a lot of that, and I think there was a reason why that episode was critical in the Disney critical episodes for Ahsoka. I think that episode right there speaks a lot to the Jedi Order and the old ways versus let's use Luke for example in Episode 8. When he's
what if we get Force Ghost Yoda and Force Ghost Anakin?
I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Force Ghost Anakin is 100% going to be a thing. To have Frank Oz be Ghost Yoda would be fantastic. I think it'd be great.
They did it in episode 8.
They did it in Episode 9. They did it in Episode 8. They did it in Rebels for Ghost Yoda. So for those guys to show up again, it would not surprise me at all.
And Yoda knows Ahsoka very well, so it plays perfectly.
Yoda knows Ezra, and Yoda and Ezra had a connection. So
through the Force,
through the Force, and this is while Yoda was still alive on Dagobah. So he was connecting to him just telepathically, I would assume. So for his Force Ghost to show up, that would make a lot of sense.
What if there's some connection between Yoda and Balin and redemption and using Anakin as an example? I don't know.
You're stretching.
I'm throwing them out there. This is what I got right now based on I don't have much because I really have no freaking clue where this is going.
Yeah, the Morgan being the a sister of Dathomir was really intriguing. Like a night sister, that really threw me for a loop. I think
I
it's
had
cool.
seen that theory, so it didn't blow my mind, but I was happy to see that. We're moving forward with the Night Sisters.
But
in that way.
But where is that going to go? Is Townsend going to show up?
Are there more?
Are there
in
more
this
of them?
Other place?
Yeah, exactly. Like where her ship is from, and the Eye of Sion. Apparently the Night Sisters are familiar with this place. They have a star map for it. Like they have all of these things and it seems like they know how to get there. So what's to say that they haven't been there already, or that is the origin of the Night Sisters? And like you said earlier, maybe that's where their magic comes from.
We never really get too much closure on Mother Talzin too, because she just keeps popping up.
Well, yeah, we see her like disappear in one of the last episodes. She just like turns into a green flame and just like gone, right?
Yeah. Well,
and then we don't, and then we see the remnants of the Night Sisters in Jedi Fallen Order. But that's really it. I mean, Dathomir is a wasteland, and there's like no one there. Everyone's dead.
Well, now that we know that Dathomir wasn't the only place that they were, it opens up a huge can of worms. And then on top of that, you have I stick to what I said at the beginning, that there's some connection to this place we're going and the source of power, because their dark side power has always been different than what we're used to.
Yeah.
And there's some sort of connection. So it would not shock me if that voice, like you said, is Mother Talzin, and it's not Thrawn calling to her from it's Mother Talzin or whatever was talking to Mother Talzin all this time. Because I think we're going to get Night Sister lore. Like, I think that's just how this is going to play out, is we're going to get more. That way you can introduce Night Sisters in older content too, because we know that they're abundant. I don't think this is a let's do what we did with Mandalore, where we destroyed them as a civilization, but we realized how cool they were, and then we wanted to bring them back, so we made a whole television show to do that. I don't think it's that.
Could you imagine?
But who's to say that on the other side of this portal, we're not going to run into a whole new Night Sister situation?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but hey, we got 6 more episodes to go, so this will be an ongoing discussion for many, many weeks to come. But thank you for hanging out with us today for episode 142 of Star Wars and Scotch. Just wanted to confirm that before I said it. Make sure you head over to Tim's channel, youtube.com/darkness429. When does Starfield start, Tim?
August 31st.
That's next week. And in the meantime, we got Tarkov, we got Baldur's Gate, we got
Armored Core tomorrow.
Core tomorrow. Friday. So it's a really good time to be a gamer. We're getting caught up with all the COVID backlog now, and it's just smacking us in the face. And it's wonderful.
We haven't seen Zeb yet. Like, is Zeb gonna show up? I would assume he does. We saw him in The Mandalorian.
They're gonna get the gang back together, and I would not be surprised if we don't get.
We still have to find Rex. We haven't seen what happened.
We're getting Force Ghost Freddy too.
Dude, Taika Waititi is totally gonna show up. Not Taika Waititi. God, who plays Boba Fett? He's gonna be Rex. He's gonna be
Tamir
old man.
Morrison.
Tamir Morrison's totally gonna be old man Rex. Like, there's no way he's not. He's gonna be perfect. But again, is he alive? It's been a bit. It's been a little bit since we've seen him, but everyone assumes that he was at the Battle of Endor. So time-wise, he should still be kind of alive.
5 years later.
God,
so
Kevin, I have so many questions.
5 years later.
Yeah, we have to wait till. Is it every Tuesday now? It comes
every
out?
Tuesday, confirmed 9 o'clock.
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night. Yep.
Fuck. Be a long 6 weeks, Kevin.
Why? It's better than getting up early.
It is, but just I don't know. It was kind of a struggle at 4 a.m. today. I'm not gonna lie. A little rough.
Ahsoka run times. Let's see if they released all.
I think
they're all.
It's all gonna be like 45 minutes, right?
Episode 1 was 54. Episode 2 was 42. Oh, first 3 episodes. Hold on. Let's see. Episode 3 is shorter. 34 minutes.
It's not too.
So
bad.
next week won't be as long. So
not too bad. God,
save it. We got 6 weeks of this.
All right.
Make sure you go check out Tim Darkness429 everywhere on the internet, especially YouTube. That's where you can watch him stream. Kevin X Vision on Twitter and KMagic101 everywhere else. And we are Star Wars and Scotch, or Star Wars Scotch. Follow us, rate, review, subscribe. It helps us out immensely. And like we said, as long as you're respectful, your comments, we're all good on chit-chatting. Some of you need to learn how to control your temper. It's okay.
That's why I don't look at the comment section.
I don't either, and I accidentally looked the other day, and I was like, oh, okay, tell me you don't listen to the show without telling me you don't listen to the show.
But our views up on TikTok are like 400%, so.
Yeah, we had a video that had like 750,000 views, so
what?
Thanks for that. Yeah, uh-huh.
Oh.
So thanks for that.
Did we piss anybody off?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm not reading the comments on that.
What was the video about?
It's in the, Nick linked it in the email.
I'll have to go look. Oh my God.
So yeah, thank you so much for that. But until next week, episode 3 of Ahsoka, Tim.
May the force be with you.